Neither David nor I believe any of his family were able to come, but we do have several speakers who will speak on behalf of David and his good work over the last 50 years. Our first presentation will be by Ron Seaman. He is a board member of the Natural Resource Foundation of Wisconsin, I think also one of the founders of that organization, and has done many other things, but I'll keep it short for sake of time. The second speaker for David Ladd was scheduled to be Jim McCauley, who is representing the Wisconsin Conservation Congress and is an Iowa County conservationist. He is unable to join us today, but a good friend of mine, Ruth Opedal, who is the executive director of the Natural Resource Foundation of Wisconsin, will, I believe, read or at least comment on the words that Jim has given to her. So at this time, I'd like to invite Ron forward to speak about David Ladd.
Thank you, Joe. And I just promised Joe that I would have all of you to lunch or dinner tonight at between 3 and 4 o'clock. So I'm going to keep my remarks relatively brief. And I know that you're not hungry, but you're just. We'll get to it though eventually. I just want to say greetings to all of you on this very special day for a number of reasons. And as you think about it, this is kind of a hot day. We've got a big boxing match going on tonight, and we've got a Kentucky Derby, and we have opening fishing season today. And in Dave Ladd's honor, I had to put a line in the water this morning at 7 o'clock, but I didn't find anything at all. Nothing jumped on my hook. But it was nonetheless fun, and it was fun thinking about Dave and what he would have done on a day like today as well. Well, as I said, greetings on this special day, and this special greetings to the family and friends and to our honorees here, and it's so hard to even begin to follow in the footsteps of what you have done, and we're going to try to show that Dave is also a part of this and has been influential in our conservation life. It's fun to be with I shouldn't say old colleagues, some of you would maybe hold that against me, but Peter Peschik, and of course I worked for George Meyer, an honor to do that. But it's fun to be with all of the people that I've worked with over the years. Going way back to, as I'm thinking about it, going way back to 1975 or 72, I think, Peter Peschik and I kind of worked in the Justice Department together for a little while, and he taught me a lot of the ropes that were necessary to sustain myself in government. As Joe said, I'm Ron Seaman, one of the founders and past chairs of the Natural Resources Foundation, and also past Deputy Secretary of the Department of Natural Resources. And on behalf of the Natural Resources Foundation Board, our Executive Director, Ruth Opedal, who's sitting down over here and who will have a very brief letter to read in just a few minutes. Our board and staff members, Bruce Brown is here. Many of you know Bruce, former Deputy Secretary and Chairman for a number of terms of the Natural Resources Foundation. And I mentioned George Meyer, who was on our board for a while and was being eaten up by the time commitments and couldn't stay on, but still his heart is with us. And also we're happy to have Chris Thomas with us too. And everybody here I think knows Chris, but she was on our board for a while. Well, thank you all for being here. And on behalf of all of us, we're pleased to support and recognize the induction of Dave Ladd into the Wisconsin Conservation Hall of Fame. I first met Dave a little over 30 years ago when I chaired the DNR's licensed feed team. And I don't know if you know how this works, but a lot of people think that the DNR just comes up with some ideas for hunting and fishing and sports licenses, and everybody buys into those. But one of the part of the processes that goes with that is to sit and negotiate with the Conservation Congress. And I found myself doing that a number of years ago, 30 years ago or so, with Dave Ladd sitting opposite me, down at the long end of the table, kind of staring at me and thinking, what are you guys going to come up with now that we've got to challenge you to? And it was a delight to do that, to work with Dave and his committee. And in that stead, I found that Dave's commitment and strong dedication and interest to Wisconsin's many conservation resource blessings were outstanding, and I think all of you have learned that or know that if you know Dave at all. In 1986, the DNR decided to sponsor the creation of a Natural Resources Foundation as a vehicle for attracting much-needed alternative funding. And as we look at our budget today, the thing that's going on right now in the legislature, I guess all of us have to be thinking about alternative funding to some extent. As I mentioned earlier, I had the privilege of being one of the co-founders and in looking for quality board members to direct our foundation's growth and work, which has, by this time, I would say, been very substantial and due in large part to Ruth Abidal and others, and Bruce and others. We asked Dave's name surfaced immediately when we were putting this thing together with this Natural Resources Foundation. He was asked to serve and he quickly agreed. In the following 23-year period or so, Dave has served in the capacity of NRF board member, obviously member, all that while. He was advisor. We picked his brains as a consultant for us. How do we grow? How do we turn this small fledgling foundation into something that's going to be meaningful? Dave was instrumental in guiding the Small Match Grants Committee, also known as the Bizadny Committee, named after Buzz Bizadny, who many of you know, I know here, and is also part of the Wisconsin Hall of Fame. This was one of the foundation's pivotal programs, this Small Match Grant Program, where we have to date, I think, given out more than 500 grants to virtually every county in Wisconsin, excuse me, and to a total of more than $500,000. The total money that's turned over by us already has been in the $50 to $60 million category. Much of it, $5 million, has gone to the DNR alone. So we're very pleased with the work that Dave has guided us through. And if we asked him, how does he think about the foundation, he would say, well, I wasn't just on that Bizadny committee. I also helped you with state natural area programs, reintroduction of trumpeter swans, reintroduction of whooping cranes, educational field trips that have become so much a part of the foundation. Many of you know Dave through a successful woodcrafting manufacturing company recognized for its management leadership in Wisconsin and, of course, nationally. And this was alluded to before. He was the Small Businessman of the Year in Wisconsin and ranked third in the entire nation as a small businessman. He was recognized as the Business Person of the Year in 2006, was awarded the DNR's John Brogan Environmental Award for his company's commitment to environmental protection and improvement. Dave helped found the Wisconsin Woodland Owners Association, which we talked about just a few minutes ago, and was a champion of urban forest and tree city initiatives, still going active today. In addition to the foregoing, Dave's conservation contributions are extensive. Many of them have been, will be mentioned by others, and many of them have been already listed as part of the legislative enactments that were read to us earlier. But here's a partial list of the things that we summarize when we think of Dave. He served on the Conservation Congress for 40 years. He chaired the Congress's Turkey, Big Game, Legislative, Habitat, Farmland, and Deer 2000 Committee. Some of you worked with him on some of those, I know you did. He co-chaired the Governor's Stewardship Advisory Council. Dave holds a lifetime membership in Pheasants Forever and was a founding member of the Southwest Trout Unlimited chapter. In 1999, he was awarded the DNR's Law Enforcement Certificate of Appreciation, and in 2000 was awarded the Milwaukee Journal Conservation Hall of Fame Award. In 2003, he was awarded the Wisconsin Wildlife Federation's Conservationist of the Year and the Trout Unlimited Award of Merit. In 2006, Dave received the Gathering Waters Lifetime Conservation Award, and then finally in 2011 was awarded the Natural Resources Foundation Award as the Outstanding Conservationist. Well, as you look at that, that's quite a summary of accomplishments. In addition to that list of achievements and recognitions, Dave found time to care for his 700 acres, conservancy acres in Iowa County and valuable prairie and wetlands. Some of you have even visited, I know have visited those areas, and they mean a lot to Dave and to the people that have seen them. He served on the board of Dodgeville's Upland Hills Hospital and has given 7 years of his time to the Air National Guard. Well, as you think about this, what motivates individuals to unconditionally give of their time and talents, as so many of you have done? What is it that wants us to preserve the spirit of environmentalism and resource protection? What caused Gaylord Nelson to do his thing with Earth Day and the Apostle Islands and hundreds of other things, and Aldo Leopold, as we talked about, to love the birds of the field, and John Muir to want to create and preserve parks, and our own Buzz Bizzadney, why did he find air and water a challenge and was determined to have it as pure as possible? Why was Herb Benke, who was admitted to the Conservation Hall of Fame not too many years ago, willing to confront anybody who would weaken our conservation heritage? And as I think about them, my latest readings, I just finished, I think, my 13th or 14th book on Jerry Apps, who many of you don't consider a conservationist, but a great writer. He too, if you read the words in his writings, loved the forests, loved the trees, that loved the land that he lived on. So that list goes on, and those are all Wisconsinites. We're proud to say that. And I think that the factors that drove them are the same things that drove Dave Ladd and the others in resource protection: a love of the land and a belief in Wisconsin environmental ethic. Namely, if there is an opportunity to build, to preserve, to improve, we have to do that. We have no choice. And so with all of this in mind, we at the Natural Resources Foundation are most pleased to recognize Dave and his many contributions and accomplishments in caring for Wisconsin's conservation gifts, and we congratulate him on his induction into the Wisconsin Conservation Hall of Fame. That concludes my remarks. Jim McCauley did have a letter, and we're going to invite Ruth up now to read that as a part of our recognition of the work that Dave has done. Thank you very much.
One of the best afternoons of my life was driving around in Iowa County with Dave Ladd. He actually took me down to Walnut Hollow, where the first walnut trees were harvested to make the plaques that you would see that were used for lots of different purposes. And we ended up at the Iowa County Prairie Restoration Project. It's the only county park in Iowa County, and it's been a labor of love for Dave. And so I just wanted, before I read the letter from Jim McCauley, I just wanted to let you all know, if you're a good friend of Dave, he wrote a book. It's about his life, and who else but a Norwegian would entitle a book, Ufta, what a ride. So I have a few of these here with me. If you knew Dave and would like a copy of it, he signed them to pass them on, and the family has asked me to share these with you. So just find me out in the lobby. I've been asked by Jim McCauley, who's the Iowa County Conservationist and also Iowa County Delegate to the Conservation Congress, to share his thoughts for Dave Ladd. My comments will be brief, as Dave Ladd's resume speaks for itself. Dave's professional and public involvements have always been based on natural resource promotion and improvement. But what doesn't show up in the impressive list of Dave's accomplishments is his true commitment in helping people become better citizens and better conservationists. Whether it's through the Children's Hunter Safety Program or helping his hometown to become a tree city, Dave was always willing not only to help, but to lead in those efforts. And all you have to do is sit in the Culvers and drink coffee with him, and he knows everybody who comes in. So Dodgeville, if you're going south on 151, just west of Dodgeville, make sure to stop at the beautiful prairie he worked on. Jim goes on to say, I think what impressed me most about Dave was no matter how busy he was in his business and family, he was also willing to help new landowners, to help them see the potential of conservation on their property. He was willing to help them develop a long-range plan for their property. These ideas that Dave gave so generously shared were based on his knowledge and practical application of a lifetime of his own experiences. I've seen Dave take his time to help dozens of young landowners develop their dreams. The reason I know this so well is because I was one of them. Yes, even though I'm a farmer and professionally the county conservationist, I learned so much from Dave on our own family farm. Whether it be the establishment of hardwood tree plantings, wetland scrapes, or prairie plantings. The knowledge and the land wisdom that Dave shared were the seeds for land management, his kind encouragement and patient guidance was the sunshine that helped ideas grow into living dreams. Many trees are growing. Grassland birds have habitat, trout have cleaner water, kids hunt safer, streets are more beautiful, and life is better because Dave Ladd shared his love of the natural world with others. Thank you, Dave, for all that you've done for us and future generations. Sincerely, Jim McCauley, Iowa County Conservationist.
Thank our presenters for their kind words about David Ladd. As they were speaking, I realized I'm doubly sorry that David did not come. One, I would like to have met him because of all of the great things that he did, and like you, I think I share many of his sentiments about conservation and nature. But more importantly, I thought maybe I could twist his arm a little bit about providing a shipload of walnut for us to use in our plaques in future years. So, Ron, I'll let you carry that message back to Dave sometime. Okay, enough on humor. Let's unveil the plaque for David Ladd. And I'd like to present then the replica of that plaque to Ron, who I believe will take it back to David. Is that correct?
Yes. And I will say, Joanne, and to all of you, that Dave says thank you very much in advance. He did say that. His family is very thankful for the honor and appreciative, and we're going to convey this. We're planning on having our own celebration in Dodgeville, or that area, and we will be inviting others to duplicate just a little bit of some of this, but on a lower level. So thank you very much on behalf of Dave Ladd and his family, and I'm sure that you will cherish this, and his family will cherish this. Thank you.
A quick aside, 30 years ago I knew Ruth Ortwardall as a student, as she worked with me and other people at the Environmental Learning Center in Isabella, Minnesota, way back in the early 80s. So it's good to see that you have continued to follow the faith. So we have concluded our induction ceremony. We have three phenomenal citizens